Hmm. Something is not seemingly working out. It's not coming. It's not going to the online thingy.
Oh,
Okay. Hold a second. Okay. Alright. Let me go run for the boss. 1 second. It's not going to the online. It's not coming online. It's not coming online.
well, I'm seeing on the
It's not coming online.
Raising Excellence Live, it says it's live.
Oh, we're live? Okay, it doesn't say.
So folks, if you're hearing this or seeing this,
We're live.
bear with us for a second while we confirm that are we live or are we not?
Well,
It seems like it says it on the thing here, but maybe
okay, Facebook and YouTube is saying offline.
live or are we not? It seems like it says it on the thing. Yeah, it's broadcasting according to the.
Let me just do a little check right here. What the other two channels are saying. In the meanwhile, Mike, you're gonna do your break filling dance.
Well, I'm not exactly sure. So do you want to just get it started, or is there something else that we need to do here before we?
Well,
It looks like it's live on
we are
YouTube.
live.
Okay.
All right.
Good
Hold on a
afternoon,
second.
everybody. Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence. Sorry about the confusion about the beginning. We're kind of updating what's going on here. Oh, it says it started streaming 2 minutes ago. But thank you for joining us. Today's show is called Kick Mental Anguish in the Butt. I'm Michael, the MC and Opportunity Ambassador. With me today is one of my favorite co-hosts, Dennis, our Freedom Facilitator. Hello, Dennis.
Greetings and blessed love, everyone. Sorry for the hiccup, for the uncensored 2 minutes of our life at the beginning of this broadcast. I hope you enjoyed it anyways. And yeah, thank you for chiming in and for being part of today's show. Excited to find out with you and to share maybe a little bit of how we have been kicking mental anguish in the butt these days, and maybe in the life that we've had so far. And also excited to hear about some experiences that you might have had in the past or right now, some challenges that you might be facing in these times. And yeah, where do we start? What's the problem about mental anguish, Mike? Are you facing any of that right now?
I think we started with just talking about the different words that describe this condition, because a lot of people talk about it in different ways. Some call it heartbreak. Some people call it depression. Some people call it, there's a lot of different words for the feeling, but it's like that low energy feeling, that feeling that nothing else kind of matters, that there's just not a really happy outlook for the future. And all those words and all those feelings, I think, can be kind of wrapped into this idea of mental anguish. and kind of the difficulty that comes along with the mental struggles that are being presented in a lot of different ways. And so I think our idea there was to just kind of outline some of those problems, and then maybe talk about some of the different experiences in our own lives where we've had maybe different experiences along that line.
What became evident for me um, more recently actually is that, you know, we might have the idea that, okay, like depression and all those conditions, yeah, it's prevalent, and you know, you hear about it, and you know, we might even know people who have it, but it's always this dramatic thing, you know, and you have to go to the doctor and you get those medications, and you know, like on TV and screen you see people being depressed, and it's this, you know, big thing and a big condition. But really and truly, what I've been experiencing and also witnessing, you know, even like in my family, but also like in clients and people I work with and friends. And I mentioned it in the teaser show already. You know, we like in Central Europe here, it has been a dark time throughout winter. You know, so that adds to it. But what I've been really looking at is the fact that it's not always this, you know, wow, super duper breakdown, and you can't get out of bed, but it's something that kind of, you know, it's something that can actually sneak in. And if you don't look very keenly, if you don't pay attention, it's something that really, um, it's not like a black and white thing from today to tomorrow, but it's something that slowly sneaks in. And if you don't pay attention, then you know, it's you might not even realize it right away that there's changes, and that you know your mood is gradually getting worse, and then you know, one morning you might wake up, and you don't feel like getting out of bed, or you feel really depressed, but you don't even know where it's coming from, because it has been something that really has been building up over time. And you know, therefore I think it's even more important to have some pointers and some hints, and to be able to increase your awareness of your being, of your state, of the state that you're in, and carefully check, you know, every day, every moment, where are you right now, you know, where you're on your emotional level, and you know, how does the world look to you. You know, the other week we were talking about the universe, and if we are living in a positive or in a negative universe. And I think that also ties in a little bit into that, because you might gradually feel that you know, your views are shifting, and all of a sudden it all looks gray. And so it's important to have this awareness, and to just check in with yourself, you know, every day, and see where you are. And if you notice a pattern that might be even just sneaking in, then you know, there might be some cues actually for you to get back on track, and to pull yourself up again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not always easy. I think one of the things that I've experienced in my own life is, things like energy level. When when things aren't going right, and it just feels, you may not necessarily notice what's going on, but you don't really have a lot of energy, and that translates into like a lack of willpower, and and things that you think that you could do normally, they just take a lot longer to do. And so like work kind of piles up, and things that you want to do kind of pile up, and maybe you dismiss a lot of things, maybe like the going out with the friends on the weekends or something like that, which is what you might normally do. You don't do that. And so then you're kind of diminishing the experiences that you're having, and you're kind of relegating yourself into a more isolated position. And it doesn't seem like anything is really wrong other than you're making these choices. But then all of a sudden it seems like, oh man, the whole world is like collapsing on me. And now like you slowly go down that path, but then at some point maybe there's a realization that, oh, it's a lot more difficult than I thought, or
Hmm.
it's too difficult, and I can't get out of this.
Yeah.
And so maybe it feels kind of like a spider web is kind of wrapping itself around you, kind of thing, and it doesn't seem so bad, and then all of a sudden it can be bad. It can be very difficult.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's, nobody really talks about that or describes that. And just in general, you know, the the cloudiness around and the gray area around kind of this area, people don't really want to talk about it. People don't want to talk about things that are negative. People don't want to talk about things that are kind of hard to understand, and takes time to kind of walk through and talk through and those kind of things. And in a lot of cases, when people are in, like suffering this in a kind of a mass way where everybody's kind of suffering, it's hard to connect with other people then, so like nobody wants to, everybody's saying they're busy and so forth. And that also contributes to the difficulties of dealing with this kind of situation.
There's a kind of a buildup of negative self-talk as well that I recognize, and it's the small things first, and then like you said, the things piling up, work is piling up, and then of course you realize that as well, and then it's like, oh well, you're not getting this done, and you used to be able to do much more, and you're supposed to this and that, and that's adding to the stress level. And then I've also noticed that in those situations that one might get triggered much more easier, and by small things, things you usually can oversee, or you can just stand above them or not be triggered by them, and they trigger you, and then you might have emotional outbursts, or maybe some people don't tend to um, you know to express that on the outside, but then those outbursts are actually on the inside, and they make you feel even more crappy, because then if you don't have mechanisms and tactics in place how to channelize that energy in something, how to get it out, so to say, how to transform it like in the physical and get it out, then for example, then it's contributing to the buildup of the of this mental anguish, of this energy that you don't even like it, you don't want it, but it keeps on building up. And unless we have strategies and ways of how to deal with it, and how to transform it, then it can lead to those major breakdowns and depressions, which I've been seeing quite a lot lately. And maybe the
Yeah.
challenge of
Well,
these
and I
times is to
think
overcome that too.
well, and I think there's a lot of things that are going on at the same time. Like if you're having trouble with health issues, or you're having trouble finding a job, or if you lose your job, or if your job is cutting you back, or those kind of things. And to a large degree, people don't want to talk about the difficulties that they're having, and so they're just like, how's it going? Oh, it's okay, it's okay. But little by little, it's drifting into more and more, and I like kind of using some of these words, because sometimes it's not it's some of these words that trigger kind of different understandings. But despondency, unhappiness, sadness, dejection, gloominess, desolation, dispiritedness, despondence, doldrums. If you're experiencing any of these kind of things, or if people around you are experiencing these kind of things, they're not necessarily going to be talking about those things. It is kind of that area of negativity. And I definitely hear this as I talk to people in society, and they say things like, well, I don't want to say anything that's negative, and I know already that, okay, this is something that's a problem, because if people have to announce right off the bat that they don't want to say anything negative, something is not right.
Yeah, it can be a sign, that the barrel is already full to the brink, and that anything more negative, or if they even look at it, then it's this fear, it's this last, trying to hold it back. But at the same time, you realize on some level that, wow, it's about to burst and something's going to happen, but you don't want to be reminded about it, because you don't have a way of dealing with it, and you don't know how to take the pressure off. So that's why people might try to avoid touching upon the subject, but it seems that life actually is confronting you with those situations in order to learn to deal with it and to overcome it. And if we don't find good ways of dealing with that, and of maintaining or regaining balance and harmony within ourselves, then my experience has been that life will continuously challenge me and bring up those problems, and until I actually discover that the solutions are there as well, and until I discover like what to do and how to position myself and whom to align myself with, whether it's people or persons, and we're gonna get into that later, to overcome that. Then these challenges are just going to persist and be there. And I feel when if you really for a minute even look at what what this mental anguish, the depression, this negative vibe, the darkness, what that really takes away from us in terms of the potential that we have. And you touched upon the different areas already. If you look at relationships, for instance, at our family life, at our friends, relationships at work as well, professional relationships in our community. If I even look back at my own experience, well, when I was in not such a great place, the even the circle of friends was greatly diminished, because and it's logical as well. You don't like to be around, and if you yourself maybe like challenged, and then you can't really afford to stick around people who are also challenged, to a certain degree, because that will pull you further down. On the other side, if you manage yourself well, then you'll see that more and more people feel attracted to you, because they might see and find something in you that awakens their interest, because they see, oh wow, he's or she's in a great mood, and like I'd like to be close to these people, because they let me share in some of that, and let me learn how they do it and how they maintain their good
Yeah.
vibes, so to say. And then if you look at work as well, how much of your of the energy that you put in work, that you put in the output that you can have in this life, what you try to achieve, and that is greatly diminished also by being depressed, by being in a dark place. And then of course at the health as well. We are also looking at us holistically physical beings, and it impacts your body, because your body is part of you. So the mental, the psychological being that we are as well, if that is impacted continuously, or like to a certain to a like high to a high degree, then that must be reflected also in our physical health and in our vitality. And of course, if that is reduced, then the output in the physical world that we can have also is greatly diminished through that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think, in a lot of ways, if, people have to, people that rely on kind of the outside world as far as news and stuff like that. Like, for example, if you look at the financial news that's going on, the stock market is going through the roof. It just keeps hitting highs and new highs and new highs. And then the government is, although there's kind of reporting, I'm talking about the United States government, is reporting that, unemployment isn't so bad. It's only in the 10% range. But if you actually look at the real numbers, suggest that unemployment could be in the 30% range. So the way that people are perceiving, or the way that the media and stuff is kind of broadcasting the situation, is definitely different from what is a lot of people are experiencing as reality.
And even if
And
it
that
was
was also kind of a thing that kind of makes you feel sick. You don't necessarily know, something's wrong, something is odd and out of place, but you don't know exactly what it is. And because of that, like the inability to like get better facts, people do, I think, retreat to things like entertainment and stuff, and kind of, video games and kind of addictive distractions that can kind of worsen the situation, because you spend a lot of time being distracted, and then over a period of time the situation doesn't get better. You're not doing productive work. Maybe your sleep patterns get disrupted and so forth, and it just snowballs. And in a lot of cases, I think some people like wait until there's some major problem. You get thrown out of your house, or somebody gets hospitalized or something like that, before they really get to actually confront the situation. And at that point, it's probably really bad. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, because of the stress that builds up, you do have a large, like physical manifestations where you get ill, you get sick, problems present themselves in different ways simply because this is building up.
And even if the employment numbers that you were just citing, let's say there is if these numbers don't check out, and it's really that there are that there is actually much more employment that there is, but the fact still is, um, what is the quality of the employment that there is? Are people actually satisfied? Are they fulfilled? Are they doing what they love to do, or are they slaving away, doing something or feeling that they have to do something which is really, you know would be way out of what they really would love to do, or what is fulfilling, the mission that they have here, why they came here. And then also, whether they don't, the unemployment numbers are high or low, it's always devastating for the one who is unemployed. So the one who feels it, whether he's among the minority or the majority, but the one who is devastated and hardly impacted by not being employed and by not being able to provide for himself or for his family, it is always, a disaster in that way. So the numbers, they speak, of course, they reflect, on the number of population, but they don't really give you an idea of how it feels for the individual who is facing that situation right there.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not just people with jobs. I think there's a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs that are struggling, and in the past, a lot of people have looked to them for answers and inspiration, and to some degree, they feel like they've got to maintain that role, but in reality, their business is being decimated because of these new rules and all the other situation that is taking place. And again, this is these things that kind of lend to this mental anguish, which isn't really necessarily any particular thing, but it all relates to kind of that these different words that that describe that kind of inability to describe what is actually going on. You feel the stress, you feel the burden, you don't necessarily know how to address it, and I don't know. It was rely on some of our audience. Is there anybody that's kind of got an experience or something that they want to share that maybe we can talk a little bit about?
If you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to type in a comment and to share your experience as well, or also the solutions once we get into them. We find, and I feel, I'm facing it myself. Talking about employment and talking about a situation that really wasn't, is new. Because I would probably, even the majority of people wouldn't have faced something to the extent that we have been facing, I guess, globally for the last year. And in my case, in my role as a capoeira teacher, I pretty much lost the students and the group that I've built. Out of a very few, that maintained contact and that might even show themselves, for training here and there if they dare. Pretty much everyone else just dropped off like that. And that's, if I wouldn't have retained a capacity and a capability of dealing even with that situation as well, I can totally see how that will unroot even a strong tree. Because if that is something you define yourself with, and not only, I'm not just talking like in an economic way and providing for the family, but also, this is, if it's something that you love to do, if it's something that's natural to you, something that it's not something that you just did, but it's something that I should say because I'm talking about myself, that I have lived for through and with, and it's, seemingly being taken away, or being made almost impossible, then that hits really hard. On the other side, it is, I can take it as well. I can take it as a challenge and say, oh, really? Is it really gone? Is it something that anybody can actually take away? Or is it something on a whole different level that this situation right now urges me to focus on and to appreciate? And maybe I can help other people right now also to see the value that it had. Maybe some people weren't even able to see the value until it was gone, unfortunately. And sometimes in life, it seems to be just like that. You can only value things, to an extent that they really, that they have played into your life once they're gone, or once they were taken from you. And then, for the future, that will also means that if you are able to conquer them again and to gain them again, then there will be much more appreciation and care for those things as well. And I'm looking forward to that. And I hope that this actually contributes to a kind of awakening, and to an heightened awareness among all of us. What we actually have, the opportunities and the chances that have been given to us. Being right here, right now, in these times. Having this body, having this technology, having the community, having the whatever we have. Maybe just having to stay at home, not being able to travel and have those contacts. It actually does mean let's stay home, let's stay on the inside, focus on the inside, look what is there, look what you have right there, and then carefully invest your energy in something constructive for yourself, for those around you, and for the world itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I mean, if you look at the statistics that are out there, suicide rates are going up. Alcohol consumption is going through the roof. Smoking and other kind of, aberrant behavior that is not in your best interest.
Domestic violence as well.
Rising. Domestic violence is going up. So there's a great deal of indications that, like, the stress level, and how people are dealing with the situation, they're indicating that there is a level of desperation, and that they don't know what is a good answer. So they're doing what whatever feels like the best for that particular situation. But I think that's what indicates to me that we really need to continue to address this particular topic, and really, point out that there are some healthy things that we can do. And I certainly feel like one of those things, and let's see, are we ready to talk about solutions to these problems?
Sure, that's what we all have been waiting for. Well, oh, hold on. Before we go into that, can you remember one situation in your life where it really hit you hard? What was
Man,
this
I've
particular?
got a bunch of those.
You want to pick up
I
one?
went through some bankruptcies and some other difficulties. I basically gave away all my stuff at one point, trying being sued and so forth. So there's definitely been some different times in my life where it seems like everything is collapsing on me, and I feel terrible. But I would say that the first thing that comes to mind, as far as something that I feel strongly about, is helping other people, because that is really the easiest, to me. It's the easiest way to see how other people are reacting to difficulties, and then how what kind of circumstance you have, and how that might relate. Because I think there's a lot of people have problems, and just helping each other out, how easy that makes whatever the burden is easier. And so just lending a hand to somebody else can kind of show you the way that, what, no matter how difficult it is, if we work together, we can get ourselves out of it. And I think I think that I kind of came to that revelation when I was in the military, and I was really being hammered on and scrutinized, and kind of made the example of in front of everybody else. And that was a very difficult position to be in. But I knew I wasn't alone. Everybody else was right there with me. And, we just had to do this thing together. And to some degree that made it a lot easier. And, whatever that situation is, when you weather that situation together with people around you, it does make it a lot easier. And in a lot of cases, I mean, I can speak of my military experience again. It's difficult. It's a very difficult existence. But as I look back, I almost relish that time, because it was one in which, you felt a part of something else. There was difficulties, but there was that ability to come together and, be honest about where you're at, and just be like, well, we're just going to have to band together and take care of this,
And that is really like a key. Um, well, that can be a keystone, a head cornerstone that keeps you rooted and that keeps you balanced and in harmony in a situation like that. To know that there are others around you that facing the same or similar situation or that are behind you, in some kind of way. And especially if things get really tough, not to have this backhold. And that's, there's community, there's family, there's relationships, play into that, having those. And I think that is oftentimes really what keeps people, from we say losing it, or losing their minds, or giving in, because of those relationships, that we have been able to forge. And that is such a key. The importance of that, I learned also, like working with traumatized children, especially in Jamaica, in Kingston downtown, where I learned to really see and appreciate and value, how sometimes, how seemingly little, and with how, a few words, like with meeting each other like half an hour per week, or like, it might look little to you, small little to you, but like to somebody else it might be the world. It might be that little spark, it might be that connection, you know to a world that is different from the world they're facing almost 24/7, but that there's somebody who opens a window and who gives like a spark of hope. And if you're not aware of that, you lose the opportunity to um, kindle this spark, this little flame, and to make it, into a big fire. And to know that we have that opportunity, that we can connect, and sometimes it's not even words, it's words of course as well, it's deeds, but it's also like on a mental level, and even I would say to a spiritual level, where there's connection all around us. And to be, and that's already going to the solution, but to become aware of that, and to become aware of the extent that we can influence, and that we are already impacting and influencing everything and everyone around us, that can really lead us to to understand how to heal ourselves, and how to heal in extension also others. And just to know that there are people, just like you, who are motivated by, and who define themselves to a large extent, by reaching out and by giving a helping hand to others. To know that, you know maybe that's all you need, to in a situation where you're in a dark place, to say, oh, there is somebody out there. Maybe it's not this guy and that one, but I know that I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to go look for someone who has a open heart, and who has a 5 minutes to talk to me, or who can give me a helping hand. And this can be all you need, as a hope. And there are definitely people out there who enjoy, and who want to help others. And how do they say, like, if you look, you shall find, and if you knock, the door shall be opened. And so it works both ways, right? If you have a little extra energy, a little extra vibe, there certainly are good ways where you can help, and where you can extend that to others who do need it. And on the other side, if you're in a bad place, then go and look for the ones who are actually in the right place, and who are willingly sharing that with you, and who can give a helping hand.
Yeah, because I think that's one of those things where, when things are rough, you get to know who your friends are. But I think that's one of those things where you can offer your friendship to people that are in difficult times, and kind of create the circumstance that they get to find out who their friends are, and you're one of them, and that is I think there's we have an abundance. We live in a world of abundance, but we've been fooled into believing that it's not. And there's just so many different things that we can do that can provide abundance in so many different ways. And many of the things, because we've been kind of put to sleep by the fiat money system, in many different ways, and all we see is their version of value. But the reality is we've got all kinds of different ways that we can provide value for other people that really don't necessarily have to cost anything.
Mhm.
And by doing that, we can raise people's quality of life, almost by a snap of your fingers, just by, like you said, saying the right words, like identifying something that they have that's beneficial, or a talent they have, or, maybe it's just their smile. But in itself is just something that's a recognition of value that otherwise is just completely dismissed.
And
And
it's
go
funny
ahead.
because just the other day I was working on the website where I offer the consultancies and the coaching, online now as well, in accordance with our times. And so of course, I'm trying to describe to someone who would not know me or would not have seen or heard me before who I am and what I can provide. And I kind of naturally I put in that with me, it's not only like a coach and a fitness trainer and a capoeira teacher, but it's also a friend that that one would actually connect to. And that's really how I always have seen my work, because I'm not talking to a client only, but I'm talking to a friend. I would like to know about him, about her, and find out, and then see like where there's a connection, where there's a way how I can support and how I can help. And the thing is that I got feedback and saying, it's not I don't think it's professional to say that, and to promise friendship, that's not professional. And I was like, well, I can see that as well, especially like if you define friend in the old way, which is the generation of my parents, for example, and here in Germany also is, I think like friends is something very tight. You only have a very few for most people, and that's really, it's a big thing, and you don't have many of those. So I can understand where that comes from, but at the same hand, like that's who I am. Like I don't, for me it's not like a business and money and I don't know, like an ABC and then bye bye, but it's like it's a relationship that I'm building, and that relationship usually, at least that was my experience in my life so far, it ends up in being a friendship and a friend relationship, and there's different degrees of those relationships as well. And funny enough, that's what I really how I experienced your course as well, ethical emergence, and working with you. I don't feel like I'm talking to, I don't know, to course mates or classmates, or at autonomy as well, the course that we both met. I feel it's a community of people, and of course you have some that you're tighter with and that you have closer relationships with, and you develop, and you vibe at a different level, and others are not. But still, it's like I feel like I'm talking to friends, and I feel like I'm talking to people who are genuinely interested in developing themselves, and on their path also helping each other, and that was really something encouraging, and I feel it is an important part of today's show as well, to mention that, because some of us might be in a place where we cannot see that, where we perceive, with last week's word, our universe as uh, um, not an unfriendly place, where there's just elbows, and to a large extent maybe we are educated and indoctrinated to think like that as well. And I feel it's important to live that, um, to live the possibility and the reality, that which is that we can transform and we can influence our own demeanor, our own posture, and to that extent, our families, our environment, our communities, and our world as well. And that there is a possibility. And even if we just leave it on a small level, and we build communities, and it could be even online communities, it could be, in a relationship with somebody whom I might train capoeira with, or whom I might, interact as a coach, online coaching, or like you, like providing a course. But those are opportunities as well to forge relationships and to show that it's possible that we can work together, and that we can help each other and create abundance, for all of us, on a mental level, on a physical, and on an emotional level at the same time.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, certainly like redefining what your relationships are, because I do feel, and we did that series of shows on the art of loving relationships, that every relationship has the potential to be loving relationships, and whether they be parent or teacher student, or boss and employees, or however you want to describe those different relationships that we have. Those still can be loving relationships where we respect each other, where we can really make our own definition of how that relationship works. And as long as we're not hurting other people, those are things that we can rely upon. And really, when it comes to the value of living, things that we really need the most, the things that are the most valuable, is having people that you trust around you, that people that have integrity and know and understand who you are. Having that kind of those kind of relationships are probably one of the most valuable things that we can have. And so, like in the situation in which things are troubled, this is really the opportunity to develop those things, to build your character and really demonstrate to other people how much you value them, how much they might, how much you can help them. And that's really could be the basis for really building a much better life for yourself, even in a bad situation. It can be the start of something really amazing.
So there we are, right away with hands-on solutions for mental anguish, or all the other depression, all the other words that we can define it by and can name it. Build relationships. Dedicate, how much is going to be? 5 minutes of your day, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, one entire day of the week, just to build relationships. And if you can, if you're not allowed to leave your house, if you, if you, if you're watching us here, so you might have just an electronic device, and I know not all our friends are in electronic devices, but there are tools available, and what can you do right here and right now to build relationships with people? Certainly, you have had relationships with people. Is there something that you can revive? Is there some calls you can make? Think about the family first, about friends. Maybe you haven't seen somebody. Maybe there was like a fight going on or a discussion, and you haven't talked to somebody. Is this the moment right now to reconnect? To check in back with somebody. To, although you feel really in a bad place, call somebody and say, "Hey, how's it going? Are you doing well?" And maybe that person is in a worse place than you, and you can provide some help and get a boost back through that as well. And but there's so many ways, like hands-on things you can do right here, right now, to improve relationships, to build new relationships. Go knock at the neighbor's door. I don't know, bake a cake, do something, help grandma from across the road, and have a friendly word. You can build a relationship with a smile. If you're aware of the fact that you are influencing on all levels people around you, then just put positive thoughts in your mind, build relationships in your mind, and then maybe there's an opportunity. You can give a smile. So you're transitioning already there. Maybe you can start a conversation with somebody. Maybe you can send an email. Maybe you can send a text, or you see something interesting. Connect to somebody and build relationships. Because if there's any value to what we have been highlighting in the last few minutes, in terms of building relationships and building a cushion there, building like a network of people that you can fall back in, then how difficult is it to strengthen the relationships that you might have already, or to build new ones? Reevaluate them. Mike, you're big on journaling, and you pointed it out for me, from last year, and we did it as a regular reminder of the show as well. Hey, how's your journaling? How has that been going? What about writing about friendship, writing about the relationship with your children, with your mommy, with your daddy, with your siblings? If you can't talk to them, if you can't see them, write it out and see what happens right there, and how transformation begins, and what will come into your life after that. But that, I think that's a great hands-on tip on how to deal with the mental anguish, with the depression, with being in a dark place. What about remembering relationships that you might have had in your life? the good one, the perceived good ones and the bad ones, what went well, what went bad, analyze them a little bit, and reevaluate yourself, reposition yourself, take on new perspectives, and that way you wouldn't even have to move, out of your seat, or out of the room that you're sitting in right now, but just within the comfort of your home, you could basically adapt new ways of thinking, new habits, looking at relationships at this point only, and therefore also forge new opportunities for new people and new relationships to establish themselves in your life.
Yeah, I think, I do feel like really kind of embracing the idea of abundance is something that really does inoculate people from the fear, doubt, and ignorance of the scarcity mindset. And I know that a lot of people suffer with the scarcity mindset. There's just so many things, money, food, just about everything, housing. There's a scarcity mindset that goes into those things, and that's all that the media talks about, broadcast that day and night. But the reality is, and I use the food analogy as one because I think it's just so incredible that people don't know this. But there's like 300,000 plants that are edible in the world, and for the most part, most people don't know most of them. They know the plants and they're the things that you find in the supermarket, the apples and the oranges and the carrots and so forth. But that's just that is a sliver of the reality of what food is out there. Those are the things that are commercialized. Those are the things that are easily transportable. Those are the things that can be turned into commodities. But there's food everywhere. And that's really an indication that we live on a planet that's full of abundance. And if you take that food analogy and you turn it to people, it's the same thing with people. People have all sorts of skills and abilities that most people don't know about them because they've never really talked about those things, or they never really had the opportunity to demonstrate those things. And we have an incredible amount of ability that we can utilize to influence each other in ourselves. And so it's one of those things where if we look for abundance, if we look for abundance in ourselves, if we look for abundance in other people, look for the strengths, look for the talents, if we spend time looking for those things and encouraging people to bring those things out, we don't have to worry. Because with those things, we can make the difference.
Wow. Are you saying that we are unaware or maybe even ignorant of the abundance that potentially lies all around us? And
Yeah.
does that then maybe mean that if it's really us, because then it's not the other people, the politicians and the lack of food and whatever, but it's actually within us. It's like, oh, hold on. Like if I'm not aware, if I'm ignorant of the fact that there's this and that opportunity and these people right beside me and this food right there, then that also means that I'm in a position where I can choose differently, where I can choose to see, where I can educate myself, where I can uplift myself, and where I don't depend on any structures or on therefore anybody else. And that is, a definition of self-empowerment. And that is
Yes.
looking within to find this power and this potential within yourself to transform your own life and extension the world around you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you start looking for the things that you have, the things that you can control, and start making slight alterations in those things in a positive manner, in a way that exploits the things that you have, like we've talked about this in ethical emergence, and I think we probably talked about this on this show as well. You've got a great sense of humor that is one of your strengths. So utilizing that strength in a creative manner when it comes to relationships, when it comes to every situation that you come about, you could use that skill that you've got, that natural attribute that you love to use, that spurs you on, that makes you happy. You can use that in all different kinds of situations creatively. Yeah. And lo and behold, everywhere you go and everything you do, if you utilize that skill to your benefit, you will be better.
And
People will recognize.
it truly is that, the wish to create, even just moments of freedom, because if you laugh about it, then you don't even feel pain when you're able to laugh. And it's relationship, it's a connection as well, that can, you don't even have to know anything about, the perceived other. But if you can make him or her laugh, then, you share that moment, that laughter, this joy, it's just for a moment together. And that can be the basis of, a beautiful relationship. And Colleen is saying, I think it is in us, we limit ourselves with our own thinking. Yeah, and I definitely agree to that. It's and it isn't the show really about that, how to overcome the self limitation, those limits that we put upon ourselves. And it's really hard, and many people might not even reach there, or might be, no, it's not me, it's this one and that one and the one. But in the end, if we take full responsibility, um, for our lives on all levels, then it's really about that. Then even the mental anguish and the depression, there is, you know, if you're depressed because of, I don't know, the lockdown, and because of this, the mask, and you lost a job, and then these are all, valid reasons. And this one passed away, and but look, if there's just one person in the world who suffers the same or maybe even worse than you, and who went to worse, but who did not give in, who did not, get depressed, who pulled up himself, then that already proves that there's a possibility. It doesn't mean that you have to compare yourself with anybody else, but it means that there's a possibility, that there's a position, a perspective, a way out of it, without, being totally destroyed, and without staying in that. And I'm also not saying that it's not, totally okay and all right also, to suffer and to feel this and to be, in the ups and downs. These seemingly are part of life. But why I'm saying this is because oftentimes when you're in a not so nice place, then you feel, that everything is just wearing you down, and you're just at the bottom, and you can't get up at all, and there's no way out, and you can't see the way out. But what we are trying to highlight here is that there is always another way. There's always a way out, but we have closed up ourselves so that we cannot perceive it. And sometimes it's right there beside us. It's the, I don't know, it's the partner beside us, it's our neighbor. It's just one phone call away. But because in the place, in the position that we ultimately put ourselves, we have difficulties to see that. So if the work, the show that we putting on today and the other weeks, if that can be like a little pointer or a reminder, and help people to see that there's always an opportunity, there's always a way out, and that there's different ways of approaching that, and that it is within us to make those connections, to overcome the challenges that we have in life. I think that then we would have done a great work, to show that we are not alone. We're never alone. The
Yeah,
alone is the all one, the all that is in one,
yeah.
and the one that is in all.
And we've got something that is like guaranteed abundance. And it's our mind, it's our heart, it's our spirit, it's the people around us. When we work together, when we problem solve together, there really is nothing that we cannot solve. And although the way that the system and the way that the programming and conditioning have steered us down a path where we feel ashamed to to ask for help when we need help, that let's just make a note that that's the conditioning, that it's the programming. That's what holds us in place where we are today. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't overcome that. And really overcoming that means that we do rediscover that we have a great deal of freedom even today. As long as there's a question mark on the keyboard, we have freedom. And we just got to keep that in mind.
Right, and the programming, that's what sparked this thought. Who is running the program, and whose program are we running? And if the program that we are running, or that is being run in us, through us, is not the one that suits us, is not the one that puts us in a joyful, in a free place, then let's rewrite the program, and let's run our own program. and even if we fail a few times or many times, but let's improve, let's put updates to our program until we find the perfect one. And it might circumstances may actually just um, require that we continuously reprogram and update our programs, because circumstances also change, right? Today we're here, tomorrow we're there. This time we're working hard physically, the other time it's just more a mental thing, and then there's this food available and there are these people around us. So we're being always challenged differently. So it seems logical to me that we also have to continuously adjust. Like we're driving with a car or with a bicycle, and the road goes a little to the left, a little to the right. We always have to kind of adjust to stay on it, to stay on our side, in our lane, basically. And
Yeah,
same like with food, same with all other things, with our with our our emotional stability, our mental output. So we continuously have to adjust, but we have to make it our program. And then we can take self-responsibility as well, because if it doesn't run well, then we say, okay, it's my program. Okay, so I have to, it doesn't suit me so well, so let's rewrite it. And maybe I don't know how to rewrite it, but then, hey, there's programmers out there that can help me and that give me some ideas, or there's people out there that I can meet that run a better program that might suit me as well. And so, you know, there's no lack of hands-on um, tips in this show. So how can we reprogram ourselves? How can we write our own program? Isn't that part of the course that you're offering as well, Mike?
yeah, I've got, yeah, actually, I'm working on another course I call Mastery of Mindset that I'm going to probably be doing the beta for here sometime in the near future. I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. But the idea is to really identify, the scarcity mindset and, transform that into abundance mindset. Really, get people to realize that, hey, if you're hungry, I think I might be able to help you, because you see that plant you're sitting next to, that actually is something that you can eat. Here, let me show you. Let me take you, into the house. Let me cook you up a stew made from that plant. And wow, doesn't that taste good? Those are the ways that we can help each other. We've got skills, we've got abilities. We still have the ability to communicate with each other. I know there's a lot of things that have gone throughout our history that have created turmoil, but we don't necessarily have to settle on that as being the end all. We can move beyond all that, because a lot of that stuff, we know it was just created to create turmoil and create diversion from what really matters. What really matters is our quality of life. And if we can work together, if we can trust each other, if we can communicate with each other, we can work our way out of this.
And we
And it's
literally,
going to be
yeah, sorry, and we literally can work out our way out of those states as well. And as simplistic as it might sound, but honoring my background as a fitness trainer as well, what about push-ups? And I actually experienced it myself, because I also noticed, in the, like last few weeks, or when, throughout the winter time, and so, like, I noticed eventually I became aware of, oh, my own personal training, my own training patterns changed, and they're like, I wasn't, doing so much, I wasn't enjoying it so much, and then there was 2 days I didn't work out, and then I just noticed that, and I know, and my wake and sleep patterns also, got mixed up a little bit, and I just remembered basically that oftentimes when on an inside, on a mental, on an emotional level, things seem to be unbalanced or things are getting shaky, that a great way of addressing that, or of transitioning, changing it, approaching it, is through the physical, through the other realms. If we are holistic beings and we are inside, outside, psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual beings, then if there's something, mental anguish, depression, or you're falling off somewhere, then try to approach it through the physical, because this like a hard workout is something that puts you back in the moment, in the body, right here, right now. You feel your heart is beating, you're sweating, you're out of breath. There's not going to be much philosophizing and reasoning and worrying about complex situations, but you have to focus right here and right now. So through the body, putting yourself in the physical, challenging yourself on a physical level, and wherever you are, for That might be just a brisk walk for somebody, or it might be, grabbing your bicycle, or it might be going for a jog, or it might be doing like a real, a real hard workout for yourself. It might be meeting with somebody or joining a little group, and getting inspired by those guys, or getting, run with somebody who is much faster than you, or teaching somebody, if you haven't done so, if you're maybe a coach or a teacher, get a new client, connect with a client that you had before, and feel the joy again of passing on what you know to somebody else, but get into the physical. And through the physical approach, it is noticeable very quickly, at least from my perspective, that all in a sudden there's a, because it requires a certain discipline, right, in order to work out. I'm gonna do, challenge yourself. What is it gonna be like? I'm gonna do 5 push-ups because I haven't done push-ups in 20 years. So I'm gonna do two for 1 week. I'm gonna do 200 push-ups every day. I was like, holy, I never did so much, but well, I have to start early. So I'm gonna do 10 in the morning, and then I give it a break, and then or every time I pass this room, I'm gonna do 5 squats, and because I pass the room like 50 times per day, I'm gonna do, okay, 5 times 50. So like some little challenges like that. And if it's not through that, it's like, I'm gonna promise the neighbor that I'm gonna walk the dog once per day for the next month. And there you have, there's a discipline, there's a routine, you have committed to it. Or I'm going to prepare one meal by myself because I used to eat out, I used to order food, but that's kind of crappy, and I'm gonna commit to that, and make some small commitments um, to yourself, and challenge yourself a little bit. And wherever you are, you decide where you are, but just do it regularly, do it every day, and do small steps every day. And then you'll see that this outside commitment in the physical world is actually transition to the inside as well. And all of a sudden you find that, oh, because you're teaching yourself that you are able to to adhere to patterns and to do something regularly. And if you can put your body in that state, then what holds you back of also regaining control over your emotions and over your thoughts as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big thing is really kind of understanding that there are things that you can control. And if you can influence those things in a positive way, like you said, like your physical conditioning, if you can do 2 push-ups today, great. If you can do 3 push-ups tomorrow, you've improved yourself, So just by being able to take on something that you control, you can start to demonstrate that, you can get better. And if you can get better by doing one more push-up in a day, there's a lot of other things that you can do that can be better. You can go to the library and you can read a book on something that's useful, or maybe it's edible plants, that are in the local area.
Maybe it's getting some seeds and actually committing to planting one tree for each day for a month or so. And then, or
Yeah,
you don't have the ability
maybe
to
there's
tree.
a gardening club.
Yeah,
Maybe
set
there's
up
a
a
gardening.
balcony, a garden, something, get your hands dirty. So that in itself is a great thing. Okay, I'm gonna commit to go outside for 1 hour because I kind of stuck inside for the last couple of months. I'm not going outside. My commitment is to go outside or to go to the forest. Oh wow, the forest is 10 minutes away. Okay, that means you have to walk the 10 minutes. I'm gonna commit 1 hour in the forest every day. That's a huge influence. Just being in the forest, you don't have to do anything more. And then like it's, but that's transformation. That's, you're changing your patterns, you're changing your way of life. And if it's difficult or if it seems impossible to get rid of thoughts, or to release those emotions, then change the environment you're in, change the surrounding, change whom you surround yourself with. Okay, I'm going to take a break of this friendship of these guys, and I'm just going to be by myself. Or I've been by myself for too long, let me go out and actively seek, as we said earlier, relationships and new people, or connect to somebody else. So there's many ways. But the thing is that when things get rough, we oftentimes fail to remember those things that oftentimes are most simple. So the most simple things oftentimes have the most profound impact. But then when we're depressed or when we're stressed, we don't seem to remember those. So then it's good if you can fall back on habits like the journaling, or if you have a list of things that that put you in a joyful place, a list of people that you can call, a list of things that you can do that will make you feel all right away. Every time I plant my thing, or every time, I don't know, I dedicate myself to to my pet, or to my fish tank, or whatever it is, and write that on a list or like a sticky note, and have it, hanging somewhere where you have to see it every time you open the fridge. You kind of, you know, subconsciously you're reminded of that, and you have to look at it. And if you're depressed, still have to go to the fridge, and you might just, there's a list with 20 things, and you might just pick up what can you do right now? There's only one thing that you can do in this moment, but do it. And then you have changed that pattern, and you have stopped yourself from, falling into that hole again.
Yeah, yeah, and even if you think that you commit to doing something and maybe you fail, there's nothing wrong with failing. You can acknowledge that you failed, and then say, okay, well, how can I do that better? What was it that I did do wrong, or and adjust, try it again, and
Fail forward.
continue to move forward, continue to learn from the experiences. The best thing that failure represents is an opportunity to learn, and if you commit to that, there's really nothing that can go wrong. You can fail and you can overcome, and it even feels better. So I think that those are indicators to me that we do live in a world of abundance. There is a great deal of proof out there that that is truly the case, that we do live in a universe that is friendly, and that we do have the opportunity to really prove that that's the case.
And maybe the best way to really kick mental anguish in the butt is to actually come to a place where you realize that that mental anguish that you experienced before actually was the energy that you needed in order to transform yourself and to transition to a different, to a higher level of living, of self-realization, of finding out about yourself, of being prepared and equipped for, so that the next time when this same kind of mental anguish comes along, you won't even recognize it. It's like, been there, done that. And you have resources in your back pocket how to kick it in its butt. And then, of course, life will throw something else at you, most likely, because that's just what life seems to be doing. But to challenge you even on that new level that you have achieved. But that seems to be, the way of life, where we ever are led to peel away those, the peels of the onion, to get ever deeper, and to come to the center, to that who we truly are, to unveil and to discover that who we truly are. And so, assuming that habit of peeling, and of continuous peeling, and of being, you even, the next challenge that comes along, can you put yourself in a joyful place where you actually, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. That's new challenge. I have no idea how I'm going to overcome that. But I've overcome a few things in the past, so let me get at it, and let me give it, you better give it the best shot, because I'm prepared to deal with it, whatever it is, because I know I'm going to overcome it in some kind of way, and I'm going to be better equipped, and I'm going to be more experienced, and I'm just ready for that, because I'm here to live right here and right now, and that's what I came here for.
Amen. Dennis, there's something you said to me that I had to ponder for a long time, but the more that I think about it, the better it gets. And that is that you said the past is perfect. And I really had to think about that long and hard. But the more that I think about it, the more that I agree that it is indeed, the past is perfect. There's nothing we can do about the past. All we can do is learn from it. And if we really, embrace that idea, I think that is how we improve our lives, is by accepting the past for what it is, a learning experience that we can't change. All we can do is learn from.
And the funny thing is that by doing exactly that, you are actually changing the past, isn't it? Because if you, right here and right now, if you can look at the past with that view, from that perspective that you just described, you effectively actually change what the past means to you right here and right now. Because then something that was devastating, and that was a burden on you, and that you carried around for years, and that dragged you down, under this new light and with this perspective, it becomes something that, oh wow, it can even become something that is not a burden again, or something that you can recognize, right? It actually uplifts me. And something that can, something that held you down, and that was devastating to other people and destroyed their lives, and you experienced the same thing, and it became something that you were able, because of that um, transformative view that you have it. That is something, wow, I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna make that, whatever happened, that situation is going to be what empowers me for the rest of my days. that situation is um, going to enable me to help others who are facing this right now to live a better life. This is going to enable me, I don't know, to set up the business that's gonna give me the financial freedom I've been longing for. So effectively, it actually seems that although we have to, like you said, we have to accept what happened, but we don't have we can reevaluate that what this thing that happened in the past actually means to us right here and right now, and therefore changing the outcome and the influence it has on us right here and right now. And I'm seeing that there's another comment. Colleen says, I agree. These seemingly small commitments for me have triggered a ripple effect. Suddenly I realized how much I can improve on just by succeeding at smaller tasks. And I think that refers to the, the small changes that we can do in our daily routines that will ripple through all of our being.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is the little things that can make such a difference. And, especially if you can do just something little, that it becomes a miracle for somebody else or even yourself, that just demonstrates to you, hold it. I do live in an abundant world. I do live in a friendly universe. Just something that keys that in, that changes everything. That's a miracle. It's a miraculous moment, and it's possible. It's certainly possible.
And
All the time.
you have developed a technique for that, the superpower routine. Is it routine? You don't call it a routine, but you
System check, superpower on is what I
yes,
call it.
exactly. That's pretty amazing. That's something that really stuck with me from, and it was more than a year ago that we mentioned it before. But have you actually? We haven't really like talked about it in detail. Is that something you would want to share, maybe like in a future show or so?
It's possible. Yeah, I think we actually did a show on that, so it's in our
It's in the archive.
thing. That maybe we need to. Yeah, it's in the archive, but maybe we need to update that. I don't know. I have kind of updated it a little bit, as I've gone, because sometimes I don't have 10 or 12 minutes to go through that whole routine. So I've just kind of, because I've gone through it so many times, I just have some little statements, and then I do my little physical output. And I basically, just tell myself, I've turned my superpowers on,
Nice. And there, and
now.
I've seen different teachers and sometimes even masters, like or spiritual teachers, also explaining or hinting at, a certain, is it a technique or certain routines as well that they would have developed over the course of their lives and their careers, or that they use. Sometimes they will give those away to students, but sometimes it's also something very personal, very private. Um, Routines that will, I think, in a nutshell, just bring you to the present moment and bring you into awareness of who you are and of what is right here and right now. And it is something very effective as well. And if you are able to make that a habit, then yeah, what could be more important and more helpful in in a situation where mental anguish is kicking you in the butt, to be able to center yourself right here and right now, and to, if you can't kick out the thoughts, then at least to be in a place where you can actually observe the thoughts, and where you're also not trying to force anything. "Oh, I must not think," because by thinking that you must not think, then you're actually thinking pretty hard. But by putting yourself in a position where you can detach and where you can observe it and just say, okay, this is going on, okay, this is going on, this is going on. And by just maintaining that posture, that is also like a hands-on, not maybe hands-on, maybe like observation on technique, where you can release from having to do anything, but where you can focus and coming into beingness in the moment, right?
All right, I don't know exactly when we started, but I think we've overrun our hour time frame.
Ooh,
So
that is true.
with that said, I think we need to close up our shop for the day. I hope this was all useful and helpful to everybody that gave us their time and attention. Thank you so much for that.
Congratulations to sticking through the first 2 minutes of unwanted blooper material. If you made it so far, we hope you found some nuggets for yourself. And yes, thank you for your attention and thank you for your time and thank you for your input and your comments as well. Muito obrigado,
Yes.
Colin.
Definitely for our audience,
Yes.
for taking the time to watch and help us out with the comments. So with that said, thanks so much, and we will see you next go round.
Yes. Check out our website. Next week we are back with another exciting theme of the week. The teaser on Monday and Wednesday the full show. Bye bye everybody.
Yeah.